Hi friends, here's another video. Today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of house sitting. I'm talking now from England. It's a beautiful sunny day and I've just completed 6 weeks in total with 3 house sits in some beautiful locations. I've house sat in the Peak District, Berkhamsted, which is north of London, and now I'm in Woking and I've had a great time in all these places. So the first benefit of house sitting is you save money, and that's the obvious benefit, I guess. So I just worked out that I estimate that if I had have actually purchased the accommodation that I stayed in, it would have cost me about 8,000 Australian dollars across these 6 weeks, or 4,000 pounds, which I think you'd agree is a significant benefit. One of the things about house sitting, it's very much an Anglo phenomenon, and prices to rent places in Anglo places like England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Australia, Canada, United States, New Zealand, it's generally pretty expensive. Just the way real estate goes in these countries, and that's reflected in your rental prices and your short-term rental prices. So you can save significant money by taking advantage of this. And also, I think the idea of someone looking after your animal, cat or dog, is very much seems to be an Anglo kind of idea. There are other cultures that use house sitting, but for example, I've done a house sit in France, and that was for an Englishman who went home to Taxhaven, Guernsey, to visit relatives. So there you are. So if you do get a house sit, for example, in France, which is also another common place to get house sits, we can get like a nice swimming pool and so forth. It tends to be probably an English person who's looking to go home from France, or more likely it's someone who is going on holidays in the summer. One thing I would say too is that I think June, July, August is a great time to come to England and house sit because that's when, particularly in August now, this is when people want to go to Europe for a holiday. If they go to Europe, it's generally cheaper. They go to the 3 hosts that I went with. They were all either going to Greece or France, 2 to France and 1 to Greece, 1 to Crete. And they're more or less guaranteed hot weather. So if you stay in the UK, of course it's not guaranteed, and also it's quite expensive to stay here. So again, this all points to house sitting, and this because sort of supply-demand imbalance. So you can pick and choose to some extent when you're in the UK. The second benefit of house sitting is you've got contact with pets. So my pet, Duncan, he passed away a few months ago on my parents' farm. I was very sad about that. He died of a heart attack at age 15. But I get to have contact with other people's dogs often. So this particular set, that's just lying down there in the corner, is Bramble, a black lab, and she's, I think, probably the nicest dog I've ever come across or looked after. She's just so sweet. The only thing negative I can say about her is that Bramble by name, Bramble by nature. So we've spent a fair bit of time just waiting for her to come out of the bush, or the brambles, as it were. And sometimes you think, is she really going to come out eventually? And eventually she does come out, so she has a great time. But God knows what she's eating in there. It's just, but that's how the owner wants it. So that's what we've been doing, and it's been great. Also, I think another advantage, speaking from the greybeard perspective, I think someone older who particularly is retired or not working full time is going to be much more valued as a house sitter. That doesn't mean younger people can't do it, but I have heard hosts having problems with younger people. Sometimes they're still working, so they're out during the day, and so the pets, it's all about pets, of course, mostly, is that sorry, I lost my train of thought. The older people tend to be home almost all day, as I tend to be, and therefore the pet has company. We have time to walk the dogs I'm interested in getting my 10,000 steps a day, so it suits me to do the walk, and I enjoy walking typically with their dogs. So, and also younger people, including myself, when I was young, they're more likely to party of an evening and so forth. So, that can cause potential concerns about damage to the home and so forth. So, I think older people, greybeards like myself, are more going to be better off in this segment. Certainly going to be more in demand once you've got a few reviews for yourself. You get access to like a full kitchen, a whole house. So this house here is really fantastic. It's a really lovely place, and you've got access to a full kitchen and the run of the house, of course, once the guest has left. One thing I would say is that you have to sort of manage the beginning and the end quite carefully. So you do want. So, for example, I try to leave just before the guests arrive, so that they feel like the house is all we were never there in a sense, but the pets are happy, the house is clean, the garden's clean, and what have you. Sometimes you get the use of a car. So this trip, we actually did have the use of an old Volvo, which was the doggy transportation vehicle, because that particular dog did need to be driven to its walk each day, twice a day. And it really was really great, because we actually had an overlapping house sit as well. So we're able to use the car to move our stuff on one day. That's the other thing. Sometimes if you have a couple, you can sometimes do overlapping house sits where one of you stays on for a few days to do the overlap. Now the cons. Well, I guess first of all, one of the cons is you do need you really, when you leave, you really need to leave the house neat and tidy. My current host mentioned that on her last house, she was a bit disappointed because they left the house quite dirty. So we always try to make the house super clean. I'm the same myself. If I stay at an Airbnb, even a hotel room, I leave it really clean. And one of the reasons I do that is so I don't leave anything behind. It's just become a habit. The same as I make my bed in the mornings. But there is some expectation for you to do a bit of work. So you want to vacuum and clean up the place, clean up the kitchen. I might generally try to leave it slightly better than when I left. And also, we did decide to do extra, so a different thing. So we've been watering the garden, which they did actually ask us to do, and it's quite hot actually right now in the UK, and we're in drought. So across the road here, the wetlands are actually dry. I feel like I'm in parts. I feel like I'm back in Adelaide in some respects. It's quite hot today. So yeah, I've been watering the garden like mad, and also we did some. We of course we checked with the host, but we also cut the growth around from these two windows to bring some more light in. So I think we're a bit underleaving, but we just look so much better when we did it. So, but there was an expectation to do a bit of work. I think hosts do expect to get things out of you, and sometimes I would also say that one thing I would also say is that sometimes hosts can be excessive in their sort of expectations. You've got to manage that a bit. I had one lovely host who wanted us to walk a couple of massive dogs, and it ended up almost becoming a disaster. And we almost had, because they attacked another dog. They broke the lead, attacked another dog, and I said to the host, "Look, I'm sorry, that was the most scary thing that's ever happened to me. One of the most scary things." Fortunately, they didn't do too much damage, and no one got injured, but it could have turned out much worse. So you do need to sort of be careful in the expectations, and you might find that your first few house sits you put up with some subpar sits. So I have been involved in some difficult sits with dogs that really need like a full-time nurse, and they tell you there's air conditioning and it's broken. Or like the one in France where they said that there was a swimming pool, but then it just happened to be deciding to refill the pool when we were there, which I thought was pretty poor actually. But I still enjoyed the stay there, I would say. Yes, and the other thing, as I said, is errant dogs. So some dogs have really bad behaviour, and I always say that it's not the dog's fault. It's the way generally they've been brought up, and often people just don't have time to look after their dogs properly. or their dog is simply bad. Like my old dog Foxy, I had Foxy and Rex, the two dogs, and Rex had a really pleasant personality, but Foxy always had a dark side. So so some dogs, some owners just can't control it, and some animals you just don't want to be involved with. So they're too dangerous, too big. That's one thing about being a grey beard, is that being I guess a larger male, you can control bigger dogs, but they've got to be sort of trainable. So you don't want to get involved in a dangerous situation. I had a friend also who did a house sit in the United States, and they had a lot of cats, and the cats were sort of urinating everywhere, and it was just one of the most horrible things they'd ever done. Sorry about that. I'm just enjoying a beautiful Aldi Coke, and it's like an exact copy of Pepsi Max. Tastes quite good, actually. Tastes better than I think than their copy of Diet Coke. Next thing is you can have last minute cancellation, so that can really screw up your plans. There is a policy you can buy with Trusted House Sitters, which I'm using. By the way, I prefer Trusted House Sitters. It's international, and it's got an excellent review system and sort of software, and it works by and large pretty well. Having said that, there are more local ones like Aussie House Sitters in Australia. But I've tended to go for Trusted House Sitters. And the other thing is sometimes, like I just had a house sit now where I didn't hear from the host till just the day before to confirm what was going on. I was on the verge of actually cancelling and seeking other accommodation, but fortunately it turned out fine. But things like that can happen, So there is some responsibility on hosts too to treat the sitter, with some respect. And finally, they tend to be short time periods. So I never apply for anything shorter than 2 weeks unless I have a particular reason for being somewhere. It takes a long time to get to know a house, and in particular the pets, how everything works. And you can end up making it quite difficult to do a good job as well, because you're spending all your time just trying to work out, where's dog food and where's the lead, where's the can opener. There are a lot of things to sort of work out. So try to get a sit that is at least 1 week. I'd aim for 2 weeks if I can, if I have a choice. And I also say that over time, you sort of, as you learn, you get more reviews, you can become a little bit more picky. So I've lined up at Christmas time near relatives. I've got a fantastic sit. I've got 2 sausage dogs, one called Barney. Barney doesn't generally like blokes, but he seems to think I'm okay. He's had a good sniff of me. And it's got a swimming pool. It's just a beautiful home. And I'm just really looking forward to doing that sit. And I also really like sausage dogs, because my auntie Nita had a sausage dog. I've always had a soft spot for Dachshunds, as I should probably call them. So I think on balance, I think I've done quite a lot of house sits now, and I believe house sitting is a really useful tool in your travels, particularly to save money. I mean, I've saved a ton of money in the last 12 months, and I've done a lot of travel, and you can stay in the best places, best homes, so often luxurious homes, and you can pick and choose once you get better at it, if you're good at planning and you've got the time. But the downside is you have to move a fair bit, and also you kind of are tied down to the house, so you do have responsibilities. You can't just go off during the day and leave the dog there for 12 hours. And it does impede you. So personally, I'm starting to move more and more towards other ideas that I've got about travel, which I'll share later with you. But I have particularly enjoyed cruising this year. I've got a few other ideas I'm going to share later with you. But I do think house sitting, trusted house sitting, is really great. It's a really great tool, and it means you get more value, more bang for your travel buck. So give it a go. I don't have any particular code, but a lot of people online will give you a discount if you look on YouTube, and you can generally find some kind of a discount for, in particular, Trusted House Sitters, but possibly other house sitting sites as well. So well, that's something you have to pay an annual fee generally, but again, it's totally worth the money to get it, because you're going to do it quite a bit. And also be patient. It does take time to build up a sort of a resume of reviews, and your reviews are, ultra important. So anyway, that's all for me now, and happy travels. Bye.